A question, a show of hands. How many people in the room have experienced more change in the way your careers are operating, the way you do your jobs in the last 3-year period than any 3-year period previously in your lives? How many people more change in this current 3-year period? Phil, is your hand up? Phil's got his hand up. By the way, I asked this question of every group. 95% of the hands go up. We are in heavily changing times. Change causes stress, by the way. The more change comes in our lives, the more stressed we are. We like some change because, hey, it would be boring without it. But the more, particularly when it's imposed on us, the more we feel out of whack, the more we feel stressed. So Teledyne Waterpik changed their marketing message from we sell a shower massager to we sell stress relief. Sales went up 40% as soon as they changed the campaign. Stress relief sells. Every single client group I talk with, how can you reduce the stress of dealing with your clients, is usually a big win in the marketplace today, because we are in a magnitude of change like never before. Most groups I talk with, by the way, around change management and so on, will say, geez, it's been tough lately. When will it go back to normal? Where, you know, I don't have to learn new software every month. I've got all these changes. When will it go back to normal? And my counter response is, folks, we ain't seen nothing yet. I'm going to make the case that we're entering the biggest change in human history on the horizon, and that means all the rules in terms of how you work, how you operate, and what leads to success are also changing. So we're into a changing future like never before. By the way, my first insight into change management is no matter what change we're talking about, a change coming at our lives either personally or through our careers, always, and I'll say this again, always has both good and bad attached to it. The naivety most people have individually and corporate level in a leadership front is we tend to judge change too quickly. We say we're going to introduce new software, people will either go, that's great, I'm all for it, or they'll start to fight it, either not cooperating or even overtly fighting it, either behind the scenes or putting the red roadblock up, I'm not going there. And so we invariably will judge change quickly in our lives, and we'll get either on the bandwagon or the fight zone. And what I'm suggesting is look at it a bit more even-handedly, because no matter what change you're talking about, we'll have both positive results and negative results. So any change team, any group of leaders that I talk with, and we're talking about a change that's going to come to the organization, I get them to brainstorm, if we introduce that new software, what are the good things that would come out of it? And secondly, if we introduce that new software, what negative things could come out of it? And then the key to really managing change success, we say, what strategies should we adopt to grab the good? Which strategies should we adopt to try to reduce or eliminate, minimize the negative? By the way, that's an excellent thing to do with all your work teams, any leaders. If you're introducing change, say, hey, I want this to work as well as possible. Let's brainstorm, folks. What's the good in this change for us? What's the negative in this change? And then you're balanced as a leader, because people now see through that pitch the good only side. Leaders traditionally have come in saying, we need this new software to make our lives easier. It'll be way more efficient. This is going to be wonderful. Meanwhile, all the legitimate bubbled up negatives come up, right? Will I have the time to learn it? Will I be judged harshly if I don't perform as well in the transition? Will I have the supports and training required? Those should come out. They should be part of the dialogue, because change always has good and bad. So the idea, again, is to get the strategies in line that capture the good side and try to reduce the negative. Given the changes, here are the type of trends that are typically looked at in any kind of environmental scan as you're trying to develop a sense of the future. Technology, economic, social culture, the values in society. So since 911, safety and security is up the flagpole in every purchase decision. So more and more, your buildings, your developments should be considering safety and security, because that's a growing need. And by the way, when I talk trends, all I'm talking about is how do they modify human needs. Because really, we're in the business of need satisfaction, so which needs are growing should be something that every organization is aware of, and start to gear their product to capture the growing need out there. So when I talk about these trends, I'm going to be talking about how they affect needs. Why do I put technology at the top of the list? Because technology is the lead edge of change. If you look at the past and look at trends and how they evolve, it's fundamental technology trends that will typically change the economic world, change the nature of the economy. It spills into social cultural value of change. It will affect demographics, and finally, at the end of the day, the politicians get together and change the legal things to adopt to the change that's already occurred. So that change progresses down this list. So if you really want a sense of where the future is going, let's start with technology. As I say, there's a common plus and minus with all change. The common plus and minus with technological change that fundamentally changes the way we operate and work is that on the positive side, it usually leads to higher levels of productivity. There may be lower levels in the transition though, okay? But at the end of the day, it usually produces better results. On the negative side, there's a huge cost to human beings as you introduce technology and change. Typically that means their jobs have to change. Or maybe their jobs will be lost. Because Federal Express lets you track your parcel online, by the way, it saved them having to answer 300,000 phone calls a day. Not good for the people employed as phone people in their business, right? But this is the nature of change, and we're in a maximum period of career shifting and role change, and that isn't easy for people to go through. So recognize as you do this, there will be stress involved in the launch of organizational transformation. I want to take you through the briefest history of the world you've ever seen to show you some of the magnitude of the change coming. But basically, we've only had 4 economic eras in the history of the world. We've gone from hunter-gatherer to agricultural, industrial, information age. Some countries are like Papua New Guinea are still more hunter-gatherers. But for the most part, we've gravitated to a world where most businesses are guided by information age values. What's the fundamental technology that led to each of these? Hunter-gatherers, we were small tribal groups, but when we had tools that tilled the soil, we ended up living in communities and cities. We had to invent policing, and in Athens they invented democracy, and all kinds of social change came out of that transformation. Then we moved in the industrial age. That's machines driven by energy. And that changed the nature of all the world and meant that people lived in cities more and so on. And we changed, and unionization came out of that, all kinds of social changes. And then finally, with computers and telecommunications, we've changed to the information age. More money around the world is traded based on trading information than hard goods now. Information has more value than ever before. And part of your collaboration that you're seeking is what is the pieces of information that should be shared between who in the company to produce a better future. And there's more opportunities and challenges around that than ever before.